I'm Samantha Mitchell, 25 years old, and my father just handed me disownment papers at my birthday dinner. The expensive restaurant buzzes around us as I stare at legal documents severing all parental ties. Mom's mascara runs down her cheeks, James smirks across the table, and Allison won't meet my eyes. As I stand to leave, dignity barely intact, my phone vibrates. Unknown number. Miss Mitchell. This is Robert Keller, CEO of Pinnacle Industries. Before I dive into my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had family drama that turned your life upside down. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how I went from disowned to empowered in the corporate world. Growing up in the Mitchell household meant navigating a world of wealth appearances and conditional love. Our sprawling Connecticut estate housed 4 people who shared DNA but little else. My father, Richard Mitchell, built Mitchell Enterprises from nothing into a telecommunications empire through ruthless business tactics and an unwavering focus on success. The same precision he applied to acquisitions and mergers he used to evaluate his children. Samantha's second place might as well be last, he'd say whenever I brought home anything less than perfect. His steel blue eyes, matching my own, would narrow with disappointment. Mitchell women used to have ambition. My mother, Diana, was once vibrant and creative, with dreams of opening an art gallery. Old photos showed a woman with wild curls and a fearless smile. That woman disappeared shortly after marrying my father. The mother I knew wore perfectly tailored outfits, hosted flawless dinner parties, and drank too many vodka sodas when she thought no one was watching. Her hands would tremble slightly as she'd whisper, "Just try harder to please your father, darling. It's easier that way." James, my older brother by 3 years, learned early to mirror our father's ambition and cutthroat mentality. Handsome, polished, and utterly ruthless, he was being groomed to take over Mitchell Enterprises from his first Harvard business class. He'd mastered our father's dismissive glance and cruel smile, often practicing both on me. "Not everyone can be the Mitchell success story," he'd say, casually flaunting his promotions and bonuses. "Some of us have to do the real work while others play around with their little marketing projects." My sister Allison, the eldest at 30, appeared to have it all: successful husband, perfect children, charity board positions. Her Instagram feed showed an immaculate life. What it didn't show were her anxiety attacks, the pills I'd found in her bathroom, or how she called me crying at 3 a.m. when the pressure became too much. "I can't ever make a mistake, Sam," she'd sob. "Dad would destroy me." I tried different paths to win approval. I earned an MBA, worked 60-hour weeks at prestigious firms, dated men my father deemed appropriate connections. Nothing was enough. When I finally landed a position at Archer Marketing that genuinely excited me, my father dismissed it as playing with pictures and slogans. 6 months ago, everything imploded. The CEO of Archer, Marcus Dunning, had been overly attentive since my hiring. When his working dinners turned into unwanted advances and I refused, my position mysteriously became redundant. With my father's connections throughout the industry, I suspected his influence when interview after interview ended with, "We've decided to go in another direction." My savings dwindled as I struggled to keep my apartment. Each job rejection seemed to confirm my father's assessment of my worth. During our last family dinner, he gestured to James's new acquisition report. "This is contribution to a legacy," he'd said pointedly. "What exactly are you contributing, Samantha?" When the invitation came for a birthday dinner at Le Cirque, I'd been surprised. Perhaps I thought naively this was an olive branch. Maybe my father had pulled some strings, found me a position. Maybe just once I'd measure up. I couldn't have been more wrong. Le Cirque sparkled with elegant lighting, fine crystal, and New York elite. The Mitchell family commanded the best table, of course. Father had arranged everything: a private section where other patrons could witness our gathering while conversations remained confidential. The perfect venue to maintain appearances while destroying me publicly. "You look thin, darling," my mother commented already on her second martini. Her fingers fidgeted with her pearl necklace, a nervous tell, not eating properly. Before I could answer, James arrived with his new girlfriend, a willowy blonde investment banker named Catherine, who assessed me with cool calculation. "The unemployed sister, right?" she whispered to James, not quite softly enough. Allison and her husband David arrived last. My sister's smile didn't reach her eyes, and she flinched when our father checked his watch pointedly. "Let's order," father announced without preamble. "I have an early meeting tomorrow." The meal progressed with superficial conversation. Business successes, Allison's children's private school achievements, James's recent acquisition of a struggling tech company. When I mentioned an upcoming interview, my father checked his phone, disinterest evident. After the main course, just as servers brought a small cake with a single candle, my father cleared his throat. "Samantha, your 25th year has been disappointing." He began, his voice carrying that boardroom timbre that silenced rooms. "We've provided every advantage, education, connections, opportunities, yet you continue to flounder." My mother stared into her wine glass. Allison examined her manicure intently. James leaned forward, not bothering to hide his satisfaction. "The Mitchell name means something in this city, in this industry," father continued. "We cannot have it associated with failure and mediocrity." He reached into his suit jacket and withdrew a thick envelope, sliding it across the white tablecloth toward me. The restaurant's ambient noise seemed to fade as I stared at it. "What's this?" I asked, though something cold settled in my stomach. "The necessary legal documentation to formally dissolve our parental obligations to you," he replied clinically. "Your trust fund has been revoked. Your shares in Mitchell Enterprises have been transferred to James. You've been removed from our will and family holdings." I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Pages of legal terminology essentially erasing me from my family. 25 years reduced to party to be removed from familial association. "Is this a joke?" I whispered, looking around the table. "You know your father doesn't joke about business matters," my mother murmured, signaling for another drink. "It's been a long time coming," James added smugly. "You've finally gotten exactly what you deserve." "Did you know about this?" I asked Allison. My sister finally met my eyes, guilt and fear swimming in her gaze before she looked away again, silent compliance her only response. "We're simply cutting dead weight," my father said as he signaled for the check. "Mitchell Enterprises requires everyone to pull their weight. You've chosen to be a liability rather than an asset." Something broke inside me, perhaps the last thread of hope that I'd ever be good enough, but something else crystallized too. A sudden clarifying anger. "Thank you for making this so clear," I said, gathering the papers and standing slowly. "You've finally freed me from trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it." James snorted, dramatic as always. "Where will you go?" my mother asked, concern flickering briefly before my father's glare extinguished it. "Away from here," I replied, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. "Away from all of you." I walked out of Le Cirque with my head high, ignoring the curious glances from other diners. Outside in the cool evening air, tears threatened, but I blinked them back. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction, even in absentia. My phone vibrated in my purse, probably Allison with some belated useless protest. I nearly ignored it, but some instinct made me check the screen. Unknown number. "Hello," I answered, voice still tight with emotion. "Miss Mitchell, this is Robert Keller, CEO of Pinnacle Industries. I apologize for calling at this hour, but I've been trying to reach you for weeks about a position I think you'd be perfect for. Would you be available to meet at our headquarters tomorrow morning?" I stood frozen on the sidewalk as yellow cabs whizzed past. Pinnacle Industries, one of the largest telecommunications companies in the country and my father's chief competitor. "Miss Mitchell, are you there?" "Yes," I finally managed. "Yes, I'm here." "What time tomorrow?" Pinnacle Industries headquarters dominated the Manhattan skyline's 68 floors of gleaming glass and innovation. Despite my emotional turmoil and the sleepless nights spent alternating between rage and grief, I arrived precisely on time wearing my most confident outfit and a carefully constructed mask of composure. Miss Mitchell, the security guard, greeted me with unexpected deference. "We've been expecting you. Please take this visitor badge and proceed to the executive elevator." Mr. Keller's office is on the top floor. The executive floor buzzed with purposeful energy. Assistants moved between offices with digital tablets. Executives huddled around screens displaying complex data, and floor-to-ceiling windows offered a godlike view of the city that seemed to promise possibility. Miss Mitchell, welcome to Pinnacle. Robert Keller stood at 6'2" with silver hair and keen gray eyes that suggested he missed nothing. In his mid-60s, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had nothing left to prove. "Thank you for meeting with me on such short notice," I said, shaking his hand firmly. "The timing seemed fortuitous," he replied, with a hint of knowing that made me wonder exactly how much he knew about my current circumstances. "Please sit." His office was surprisingly understated for someone of his stature. Awards and accolades were tucked discreetly on side shelves rather than prominently displayed. Family photos showed along marriage, grandchildren. "I'll get straight to the point," Keller said after offering me coffee. "Pinnacle needs someone to head our creative strategy division. The position reports directly to me, comes with full executive benefits and a starting salary of $300,000. I nearly choked on my coffee. "I'm sorry, Mr. Keller, but why me? I was just let go from a mid-level position at Archer Marketing. There must be hundreds of more qualified candidates." Keller smiled. "I've been following your career for some time, Samantha. May I call you Samantha?" At my nod, he continued, "Do you remember the National Business Innovation Competition during your final year at Wharton?" "Of course. My team placed first for our integrated communications platform. I was one of the judges," Keller revealed. "Your concept was brilliant, but what impressed me more was your presentation. When technical difficulties struck, you handled it with poise. When your teammate froze during questions, you stepped in without embarrassing him. You showed leadership beyond your strategy." He stood and walked to the window. "I've kept tabs on your work since then. Your campaign for ArtSpace Foundation increased donations by 60%. Your social media strategy for next-gen tech went viral in all the right ways. Even your smaller projects show innovation and adaptability." My mind reeled. "Then why didn't you contact me before now?" "I tried multiple times over the past month. Your former boss at Archer has been, let's say, discouraging inquiries about you." Understanding dawned. "Marcus Dunning told you I was incompetent." "He tried," Keller confirmed. "But his attempt to blacklist you backfired. When someone that unethical tries that hard to destroy a former employee, it raises questions. I had my team investigate. We know why you were really let go." Shame and anger flushed through me. I didn't do anything wrong. "Exactly." Keller's voice was gentle but firm. "You stood your ground against inappropriate behavior and he punished you professionally. That told me as much about your character as your creative abilities." He returned to his desk and opened a folder. "This position needs someone with fresh perspective, impeccable ethics, and the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Your portfolio demonstrates the first quality. Your handling of the Archer situation confirms the other two." A sudden thought struck me. "You know who my father is?" Keller met my gaze directly. "Richard Mitchell is one of the most ruthless businessmen in the industry. Pinnacle and Mitchell Enterprises have been competitors for 15 years. Is that what this is? You're hiring me to get at my father." "No, Samantha. I'm hiring you despite your father." His expression was earnest. Your family name might have opened doors, but your talent got you through them. This offer is about your abilities, not your relatives." He slid a contract across the desk. "The job is yours if you want it. Take time to think about it if you need to." I didn't need time. For the first time in my professional life, someone was seeing me not as Richard Mitchell's disappointing daughter, but as Samantha, a capable professional with something valuable to offer. "When can I start?" "How about Monday?" Keller smiled. "Welcome to Pinnacle Industries, Samantha." As we shook hands, I had no way of knowing this was just the beginning of a corporate war that would redefine my understanding of family loyalty and my own strength. 2 months into my position at Pinnacle, life had transformed. My apartment now seemed like a retreat rather than a reminder of failure. My wardrobe upgraded from desperate preservation of interview clothes to a confident executive collection. Most importantly, my work received recognition and respect. The creative strategy division thrived under my leadership. I assembled a team of innovative thinkers, established streamlined approval processes, and developed campaigns that generated immediate market buzz. My first quarterly review with Robert Keller ended with a bonus and expanded departmental budget. "The board is impressed," he told me, "especially with your upcoming presentation for the Green Tech Initiative." Green Tech represented Pinnacle's most ambitious project to date, sustainable telecommunications infrastructure that would revolutionize the industry while drastically reducing environmental impact. My division had created a comprehensive marketing strategy that would position Pinnacle as the forward-thinking alternative to companies like Mitchell Enterprises, still clinging to outdated environmentally damaging practices. The presentation to Pinnacle's board and potential investors was scheduled for Thursday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, my team had finalized every aspect: slide decks, perfected talking points, memorized visual materials, impeccable. I stayed late reviewing everything one last time before the 8 a.m. presentation. "Working hard, sis." The voice froze me in place. I looked up to find James leaning against my office doorframe, wearing an expensive suit and his trademark smug expression. "How did you get in here?" I demanded, instinctively moving to cover my computer screen. "Told reception I was surprising my beloved sister," he replied, strolling into my office uninvited. "Security is surprisingly lax here." "What do you want, James?" He examined the awards my team had already accumulated displayed on my credenza. "Can't a brother visit to see how you're doing? You disappeared so completely after your birthday dinner." "Mother's quite concerned." "I'm sure," I replied dryly. "You've seen I'm fine. You can report back to father that disowning me hasn't led to destitution." James chuckled. "Always so dramatic. Father simply wanted to motivate you to reach your potential." He gestured around my office. "Looks like it worked." Something in his casual assessment raised my suspicions. James never did anything without purpose, especially not anything kind. "You didn't come here to check on my welfare. What's the real reason?" "Perhaps I'm extending an olive branch." He sat in the chair across from my desk uninvited. "Family should stick together after all." "We stopped being family when father handed me those papers." James shrugged. "Legal formalities. Water under the bridge now that you've landed on your feet." My assistant Melanie appeared in the doorway, startled to see someone in my office. "Miss Mitchell, I have those comparison charts you requested." "Thank you, Melanie. You can leave them. I'll review them before heading home." James stood all charm. "Don't let me keep you from your work. Dinner soon, for old time's sake." I agreed noncommittally, mainly to get him to leave, which he did after a suspiciously warm hug. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't identify what. The next morning, I arrived early to prepare for the presentation, only to discover my nightmare scenario: the presentation files had vanished from both my computer and the secured server. Backup drives showed corrupted data. The physical materials, custom-designed information packets for each board member, were missing from the locked cabinet. Panic threatened to overwhelm me until Melanie rushed in. "Miss Mitchell, it wants to speak with you immediately. They've detected a security breach." The security team explained that someone had accessed my computer after hours, downloaded files, then executed a deletion protocol. The security camera footage revealed James returning to my office after our encounter using a security card that wasn't his. "How is this possible?" I demanded. "The card belonged to an intern who reported it missing yesterday," the security chief explained. "We're investigating how he obtained it." With 30 minutes before the presentation, I had a choice: admit defeat or fight back. Channeling a determination I hadn't known I possessed, I gathered my team. "We've been sabotaged, but we're not beaten," I told them. "We know this presentation inside and out." Derek, recreate the basic slide template. Jennifer, start rebuilding the data visualizations from your notes. Michael, draft a one-sheet summary for board members. We'll rebuild this presentation in real time. While they worked frantically, I called Robert Keller to explain the situation. "Postpone if you need to," he offered. "No," I replied firmly. "We're proceeding as scheduled. We'll just be more dynamic than anticipated." The presentation became a masterclass in crisis management. I opened by addressing the situation directly. "This morning our materials were compromised in a security breach. Rather than delay, we're demonstrating the adaptability that defines Pinnacle's approach. Using hastily recreated visuals, collaborative teamwork, and pure adrenaline, we delivered a presentation that earned a standing ovation." Board members commented that our handling of the crisis illustrated precisely the innovative thinking we were proposing for the Green Tech Initiative. That evening, I confronted James at his luxury apartment. "Did you honestly think I wouldn't figure it out?" I demanded when he opened the door. His smirk confirmed everything. "Figured it out too late though, didn't you?" "Actually, no. The presentation was a success." His smile faltered slightly. "Impossible? You underestimated me." Again, I stepped closer. "Why, James, I'm not even part of the family anymore, according to those papers." "Father sent me," he admitted, pouring himself a whiskey. "Mitchell Enterprises is preparing a bid to acquire Pinnacle Industries. Your little green tech initiative threatens our existing infrastructure investments." The realization hit me like a physical blow. "This wasn't about me at all. It's about business." "It's always about business," James confirmed coldly. "Father didn't anticipate you'd land at Pinnacle, much less in a position to damage Mitchell Enterprises. When you did well, problem solving is what Mitchells do best. So the disownment was just for show to manipulate me." James laughed. "The disownment was real. Father meant every word. This is just cleaning up loose ends. By sabotaging my career again." "Consider it a warning," James replied, suddenly serious. "Dad will destroy anyone who helps you, including Keller. And he'll burn Pinnacle to the ground before he lets you succeed there. You're in the middle of a corporate war now, Sam." I left James's apartment with clarity I hadn't possessed before. This wasn't just about proving myself professionally anymore. I was on the front lines of a battle between corporate giants, and my own family was the enemy. Back at Pinnacle, I met with Keller and the security team, warning them about potential corporate espionage. "Mitchell Enterprises wants to acquire Pinnacle," I explained. "And my father is willing to use any tactics necessary." Keller looked troubled but not surprised. "We've suspected Richard has been plotting something. Now we know for certain." He studied me carefully. "This puts you in a difficult position, Samantha." "Not at all," I replied with newfound resolve. "My position is perfectly clear. I'm a Pinnacle executive, and I'll protect this company's interests." For the first time in my life, I knew exactly where I stood, and it wasn't in my father's shadow. 3 weeks after James's sabotage attempt, Pinnacle's Green Tech Initiative had gained tremendous momentum. Major clients were signing contracts, environmental organizations offered endorsements, and industry publications featured our innovation prominently. Each success felt like personal vindication. On a rainy Tuesday morning, my assistant announced an unexpected call. "Your mother is on line 1. My pulse quickened. I hadn't spoken to Diana Mitchell since the Disownment dinner. "Mom," I answered cautiously. "Samantha." Her voice sounded thin, fragile. "I need to see you, please." Concern overrode my wariness. "Are you okay?" "Not really," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I can't discuss it over the phone. Could you meet me? Just us?" We arranged to meet at a small cafe in Greenwich Village, neutral territory, far from both Mitchell Enterprises and Pinnacle. I arrived to find my mother already seated in a corner booth, looking smaller than I remembered. Her designer outfit hung loosely on her frame, and her carefully applied makeup couldn't quite conceal the pallor beneath. "You look well," she said as I slid into the booth. "Success agrees with you." "What's going on, Mom? You sounded upset on the phone." She clutched her teacup with trembling hands. "It's your father. He's not well, Samantha." "What do you mean?" "His blood pressure is dangerously high. The doctor warned about stroke risk." Her eyes filled with tears. "He won't admit it, but I think it's stress from this situation with you and Pinnacle." Guilt twisted in my stomach despite my rational mind protesting. "Mom, I'm not responsible for Dad's health." "Of course not, darling. But this competition between the companies, it's consuming him." She reached for my hand. "He hasn't been sleeping. I hear him pacing at night, talking about market share and counter strategies." "What exactly are you asking me to do?" She squeezed my fingers. "Consider leaving Pinnacle, for your father's health, for family peace." The old Samantha might have capitulated, might have sacrificed her success to earn parental approval. But I'd changed. Dad legally disowned me. He orchestrated James's sabotage of my presentation. Now you're asking me to abandon my career because he's upset that I'm succeeding. "You don't understand how serious this is," she insisted. "The doctors say—" "What doctors? When was this diagnosis?" She faltered slightly. "Last week. After the Mitchell Enterprises stock dropped following Pinnacle's announcement. Something about her story didn't add up. My mother's tells had been consistent throughout my childhood, the way she wouldn't maintain eye contact when manipulating at my father's behest, her fingers constantly adjusting her jewelry, just like they were doing now with her bracelet. I noticed her purse positioned oddly on the table, partially unzipped. A small red light blinked inside. "Are you recording this conversation?" I asked quietly. Her startled expression confirmed my suspicion before she could deny it. I reached over and pulled a small recording device from her purse. "Mom, what is this about?" Tears filled her eyes, genuine this time. "Your father wanted evidence that you acknowledged the green tech initiative was designed to damage Mitchell Enterprises. And you agreed to trick me, to manipulate me with lies about Dad's health?" "I have no choice." Her whisper was desperate. "He controls everything, the house, the accounts, my life. 30 years of marriage, and I don't even have a bank account in my name." My anger deflated at her admission. My mother wasn't just my father's accomplice, she was his prisoner in many ways. "There are always choices, Mom." "Easy for you to say," she replied bitterly. "You got away." Before I could respond, Allison appeared at our table, her expression tense. "I figured I'd find you both here." "Did Father send you too?" I asked. "No." Allison slid into the booth beside me. "I followed Mom when I overheard her planning this meeting." Our mother's face crumpled. "Allison, please don't tell your father I failed." "I'm not here as his spy," Allison said firmly. "I came to warn you both." She turned to me, her usual polished facade completely absent. "Dad knows about your meeting. Whatever Mom records, he plans to have edited and sent to Robert Keller to make you look disloyal to Pinnacle." "How do you know this?" I asked. "Because he asked me to help with the editing." Her voice was hollow. "He's obsessed with destroying you professionally, Sam. It's like he can't stand that you're succeeding without him." Our mother began quietly sobbing. "I just want our family back together." "That family never really existed," Allison said with surprising clarity. "We were just playing assigned roles in Dad's personal empire." Looking at my sister closely, I noticed details I'd missed before: the nervous exhaustion in her eyes, a fading bruise partially covered by makeup on her wrist. "Allison, what's going on with you?" She glanced around the cafe before lowering her voice. "I've been skimming money from various Mitchell Enterprises accounts for almost a year, building a safety fund." "You've been embezzling from Dad." I couldn't hide my shock. "I prefer to think of it as finally paying myself for years of emotional labor," she replied with grim humor. "I need to get out, Sam. David controls our finances, just like Dad controls Mom's. I'm trapped unless I can establish independence. Your perfect marriage is a carefully maintained illusion." Her voice cracked slightly. "Dad and David are cut from the same cloth. I need to get my children away before they grow up thinking this is normal." The revelation shifted everything I thought I knew about my sister. She hadn't been competing with me for our father's approval. She'd been surviving the only way she knew how. "I want to help," I told her, "but I don't know how." Allison took my hand. "I have account information, transaction records, evidence of questionable Mitchell Enterprises dealings. Things that could help Pinnacle understand what they're up against." "You want me to use confidential information against our father?" The ethical implications troubled me. "I want you to help me get free," she corrected. "And maybe in the process we can stop him from hurting anyone else, including Pinnacle employees whose jobs would be eliminated in an acquisition." Our mother looked between us, torn between decades of conditioned loyalty and the painful recognition of truth in Allison's words. "He'll never stop," she whispered, "not until he wins." I made my decision. "I'll help you, Allison, but we need to be strategic. This isn't just about escaping anymore. It's about making sure he can't continue hurting people." As we left the cafe, I felt a complex mixture of emotions: anger at my mother's betrayal, compassion for her captivity, determination to help my sister, and a growing resolve to protect Pinnacle from my father's predatory tactics. The corporate war had just become deeply personal. Over the next 2 months, the conflict between Pinnacle Industries and Mitchell Enterprises escalated from subtle corporate maneuvering to all-out business warfare. Under my leadership, Pinnacle's creative strategy division secured contracts with major clients, many defecting directly from Mitchell Enterprises. The green tech initiative proved particularly damaging to my father's company. Our marketing campaign highlighted Pinnacle's environmental innovation while indirectly exposing Mitchell's outdated, wasteful practices. Industry awards and positive press coverage cemented Pinnacle's reputation as the forward-thinking choice. Pinnacle's stock rose steadily. Mitchell's began to falter. My father's response was swift and vicious. Mitchell Enterprises launched a multi-pronged attack: negative press releases, questioning Pinnacle's financial stability, lobbying efforts to obstruct our regulatory approvals, and whisper campaigns suggesting our technology was place unreliable. Most concerning was a series of investigative articles raising safety concerns about Pinnacle's products, concerns manufactured by Mitchell-funded research. "These allegations are completely fabricated," I explained during an emergency executive meeting, "but they're gaining traction with smaller clients who can't afford to take risks." Robert Keller maintained his characteristic calm. "Richard Mitchell has used these tactics before. We'll weather this storm by focusing on facts and transparency." After the meeting, I found an anonymous note on my desk: "Mitchell PI following you. Apartment compromised. Watch your back." That evening, returning home, I immediately sensed something wrong. Nothing obvious: a chair, slightly misaligned books rearranged on shelves, the lingering scent of unfamiliar cologne. Someone had searched my apartment thoroughly while attempting to leave no trace. My laptop was untouched, but when I checked my files, critical folders were missing, including personal documents and the information Allison had provided about Mitchell Enterprises' questionable business practices. I called Keller immediately. "Don't return to your apartment," he instructed after hearing my account. "We've suspected your father might escalate to personal intimidation. I'm sending our head of security to meet you." Marcus Reed met me at a hotel 30 minutes later. Tall with military bearing and watchful eyes, he exuded competence and calm. "Miss Mitchell, we need to assume all your personal devices are compromised," he explained efficiently. "Pinnacle will provide secure replacements and temporary housing with appropriate security." "You think my father would go that far?" I asked, though the answer seemed obvious now. "Richard Mitchell's reputation for ruthlessness isn't exaggerated," Reed replied. "Our intelligence suggests he's hired Blackwell Security. They operate in legal gray areas." "This is insane. All because I'm successful at Pinnacle?" "It's more than that," Reed said carefully. "Since you joined Pinnacle, you've helped block 3 separate attempts by Mitchell Enterprises to position for acquisition. Your insight into your father's tactics has been invaluable. So this is personal and professional." "Exactly." Reed handed me a secure phone. "From now on, assume all communication might be monitored. We'll move you to a company apartment with security protocols." The next morning, Keller called an emergency strategy session with senior executives to address the Mitchell threat comprehensively. "We need to go on the offensive," argued our CFO. "Mitchell's targeting our reputation. We should expose his company's vulnerabilities." "Like what?" asked the legal counsel cautiously. All eyes turned to me. The unspoken question hung in the air. How much insider knowledge was I willing to use against my own family? "Mitchell Enterprises has environmental compliance issues at their Denver facility," I said carefully. "They've been covering up toxic waste violations for years." "How certain are we of this?" Keller asked. "I have documentation," I replied, thinking of the files Allison had provided. "But using it creates ethical concerns." "And legal ones," added our counsel. "The information's provenance matters." Keller studied me thoughtfully. "This is ultimately your call, Samantha. You understand the personal ramifications better than anyone." The weight of the decision pressed on me. Using Allison's information might protect Pinnacle and help her escape our father's control, but it also meant crossing a line, becoming as ruthless as the man I'd spent my life trying not to become. "We use the environmental data," I decided finally. "But we focus on business practices, not family matters. This isn't about revenge, it's about protecting Pinnacle and holding Mitchell Enterprises accountable for actual violations." Over the following weeks, we executed a carefully orchestrated counter-campaign. Working with environmental regulatory agencies, Pinnacle provided evidence of Mitchell Enterprises' violations. Rather than sensationalizing, we simply ensured proper authorities received accurate information. Simultaneously, Marcus Reed and his team strengthened Pinnacle's security protocols and provided me with personal protection. Reed himself often accompanied me to important meetings, his presence both reassuring and a stark reminder of the situation's seriousness. "Your father has hired 3 more Blackwell operatives," Reed informed me after one particularly successful client presentation. "Is that normal for corporate competition?" I asked, attempting to maintain professional detachment. Reed's expression remained neutral. "No, this has become personal for him." "It's always been personal," I replied. "I just didn't realize how deep it went." The crisis point arrived with shocking news headlines: financial irregularities discovered at Mitchell Enterprises. Someone had leaked evidence of accounting discrepancies to financial regulators and media outlets. Mitchell Enterprises' stock plummeted 15% in a single day. James called furious. "What the hell did you do?" "This wasn't me, James." "Bullshit. Dad is apoplectic. The SEC is examining our books, clients are panicking, and board members are demanding explanations." "Perhaps father should have focused more on running an ethical company and less on destroying mine," I suggested coolly. "He's going to ruin you for this," Sam James warned. "Whatever it takes." I hadn't released the financial information that hadn't been part of our strategy, but I had a sinking suspicion who might have. Allison called later that night confirming my fears. "I had to do it," she said, her voice shaking. "Dad discovered money missing from one of the accounts I was using. He was going to audit everything, find my escape fund. Allison, the SEC is involved now. This is serious." "I know," she whispered, "but I'm finally free. I've taken the children and left David. We're somewhere safe." "What about Mom?" Her silence answered my question. "I'll try to help her," I promised. "But you need to stay safe. Father won't forgive this." The next day brought the news Richard Mitchell had suffered a minor heart attack following the stock crash. Mitchell Enterprises publicly blamed corporate sabotage by competitors for the stress that precipitated the medical event. Pinnacle board members, initially supportive of our counter strategy, now questioned my involvement in the financial leaks. "Is this personal vendetta affecting your professional judgment?" one director asked bluntly during an emergency session. I had nothing to do with the financial disclosures, I maintained firmly. Our strategy has focused solely on legitimate business competition and regulatory compliance. Keller defended me, but the damage was done. By week's end, I was placed on temporary administrative leave pending an internal investigation. "This is just procedural," Keller assured me. "We need to demonstrate our commitment to ethical business practices." But as I cleaned out my desk that Friday evening, I wondered if my father had won after all. My career at Pinnacle appeared in jeopardy. My family was fractured beyond repair, and my personal safety remained at risk. Marcus Reed appeared at my office door as I was packing the last of my personal items. "I have something you should see," he said, placing a flash drive on my desk. "What is this?" "Security footage from Mitchell Enterprises, headquarters showing your brother James removing financial records 3 days before the leak." I stared at him. "How did you get this?" "I have contacts," he replied simply. "The point is neither you nor your sister leaked those financials. Your brother did, then made it look like external sabotage." "Why would James sabotage his own company?" "Because the irregularities were his doing," Reed explained. "He's been embezzling for years, hiding it in technology acquisition accounts. When your sister started skimming funds, she inadvertently created discrepancies that threatened to expose his larger scheme. So he sacrificed some information to control the narrative," I realized. "Exactly. Your father's heart attack and the public sympathy it generated was an unexpected bonus for him." I studied the security chief. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I believe in justice," he said simply. "And because I think you're fighting the right battle, even if your methods are sometimes too ethical for your opponents." For the first time in weeks, I felt hope return. "This evidence clears me with the Pinnacle board." Reed nodded. "And gives you leverage against both your father and brother." As he turned to leave, I called after him, "Thank you, Marcus." His usually stoic expression softened slightly. "Just doing my job, Miss Mitchell." But we both knew it was more than that. In this corporate war, I'd found an unexpected ally, perhaps even a friend. My administrative leave stretched into its second week, when Allison burst into my temporary apartment, her face, ashen eyes wild with panic. Marcus Reed, who'd been reviewing security protocols with me, immediately moved to intercept her. "It's okay," I told him. "She's my sister." Allison collapsed onto my sofa, trembling visibly. "He found everything. The accounts, the transfer, records my new identity documents." "Who, father?" "Yes." Her voice cracked. "He's threatening to press criminal charges, embezzlement, fraud, even identity theft." Reed's expression remained professionally neutral, but I detected concern. "Against you specifically, ma'am." "Against both of us," Allison clarified, looking at me. "He's saying you orchestrated everything, that I was just your pawn. He has evidence of our conspiracy." "That's ridiculous," I protested. "I never touched Mitchell Enterprises funds." It doesn't matter what's true, Allison whispered. It matters what he can make people believe. As if on cue, my secure phone buzzed with a news alert. Breaking: Mitchell Enterprises reports financial irregularities linked to former executives' daughters. Reed excused himself to make calls while I skimmed the article with growing horror. The narrative was masterfully crafted. Richard Mitchell, respected business leader, heartbroken to discover his daughters had systematically diverted company funds. Quotes from inside sources suggested my employment at Pinnacle was specifically designed to damage Mitchell Enterprises while covering the financial theft. This is insane, I breathed. They can't possibly. My phone rang. Robert Keller. Samantha, I assume you've seen the news, he began without preamble. The board is convening an emergency session. You need to come in immediately. Robert, none of this is true. I want to believe that, he replied carefully, but the evidence Mitchell is providing looks compelling. Bank transfers from Mitchell accounts to offshore entities linked to both you and your sister. Communication records. The timing aligning perfectly with your joining Pinnacle. It's all fabricated. Then explain that to the board, he said. 4 o'clock, main conference room. The call ended and I turned to find Allison watching me, guilt etched across her face. What aren't you telling me? I asked quietly. I used your name, she admitted. For some of the accounts. I needed credentials Father wouldn't immediately flag, and you'd already been removed from the family systems. The betrayal stung despite understanding her desperate circumstances, so there actually is evidence linking me to the embezzlement. Yes, but I never thought he'd find it all. I was so careful. Not careful enough, Reed commented, returning to the room. My sources confirm Mitchell Enterprises has filed formal complaints with the SEC and federal prosecutors. They're also releasing evidence to key financial publications. My phone buzzed again, another news alert. Mitchell Enterprises stock plummets amid family financial scandal. We need to get ahead of this, I said, mind racing. If we explain that Allison acted alone, that I had no knowledge. Don't you dare, Allison interrupted fiercely. I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself. We're facing this together. Reed cleared his throat. There's more. Richard Mitchell suffered a second cardiac event following the press conference. He's been hospitalized. The news hit me harder than expected. Despite everything, hearing my father was seriously ill affected me. Is he going to be all right? Allison asked, her voice small. Stable but serious condition, Reed reported. Your brother James is publicly blaming the stress of discovering his daughter's betrayal for triggering the heart attack. The psychological manipulation was breathtaking in its effectiveness. If our father died, Allison and I would forever be branded as the daughters whose crimes killed him. By the time I arrived at Pinnacle, headquarters reporters clustered at the entrance, shouting questions about family betrayal and corporate espionage. Security escorted me through a service entrance, but the damage was done. My face was splashed across financial news channels nationwide. The boardroom atmosphere was glacial. Directors who'd previously supported me now avoided eye contact. Only Keller offered a small nod of acknowledgement as I took my seat. Miss Mitchell, began the chairwoman, we've reviewed the information provided by Mitchell Enterprises regarding your alleged involvement in financial improprieties. The allegations are false, I stated firmly. My sister did divert some funds without my knowledge or involvement. She used my name on certain accounts without permission. I can provide a full explanation. We've also received records of your supposed communications with Pinnacle before your employment interrupted another director, suggesting you sought the position specifically to damage Mitchell Enterprises while providing cover for ongoing financial theft. Those must be fabricated. I never. Furthermore, continued the chairwoman, the timing of specific competitor intelligence you provided correlates precisely with fund transfers from Mitchell accounts. It creates the appearance you were selling corporate secrets. The room swam before me as I realized the comprehensive nature of my father's attack. He'd created a narrative so convincing, so perfectly aligned with known facts, that even explaining the truth sounded like desperate lies. The board voted to place me on indefinite suspension while investigations proceeded. My access to Pinnacle systems was revoked. My team reassigned. The Green Tech Initiative, my greatest professional achievement, handed to another division. "I'm sorry," Samantha Keller told me privately afterward. "I believe you're being set up, but the evidence is substantial. The board has a fiduciary duty to protect Pinnacle." "I understand," I replied numbly. "What happens now?" "We'll conduct our own investigation, separate from the authorities. If you're cleared, we'll make it right." But we both knew the damage was done. My professional reputation lay in ruins. Media outlets characterized me as either a calculating criminal or a daddy's girl turned vindictive. Outside Pinnacle's building, James waited beside a black SUV. "Come to gloat?" I asked tiredly. "Come to offer a solution," he replied. "Father's authorized me to make you an offer, publicly confess to acting alone, absolve Allison of involvement, and express remorse for the stress caused to our father. In exchange, Mitchell Enterprises drops all charges." "You want me to take all the blame?" James shrugged. "Someone has to. This way, at least one Mitchell daughter doesn't end up in prison." "Why would father offer this deal?" "The Mitchell name still means something to him. One disgraced daughter is better than two. Besides, Allison has children to consider." The manipulation was elegant in its cruelty, using my protective instincts toward my sister and her children as leverage. "I'll think about it," I said finally. "Don't think too long," James warned. "The offer expires when father's condition stabilizes one way or another." The following days passed in a blur of legal consultations, media avoidance, and deepening despair. Allison and I relocated to a hotel under assumed names as reporters staked out both our residences. "You can't accept James's offer," Allison insisted. "It's suicide." "It might be our only option," I argued. "Your children need their mother, and the evidence against me is already stronger because you used my name. There has to be another way." On the fourth day of our exile, Marcus Reed contacted me through a secure channel, requesting an urgent meeting. He arrived at our hotel room with a hard drive and grim determination. "I've been conducting my own investigation," he explained, connecting the drive to a laptop. "James's security isn't as thorough as he believes." The screen filled with footage, James in Richard's office clearly arguing. James removing files from a secured storage room. James meeting with the same Blackwell operatives who had been following me. "This is helpful but not exonerating," I noted. "This is," Reed replied, opening another file. The video showed James in my father's hospital room alone with the unconscious man. James was speaking while recording the one-sided conversation on his phone, occasionally moving my father's hand as if gesturing. He's staging a conversation, I realized. Manufacturing evidence of instructions from father. Exactly. Reed opened a final file, an enhanced audio recording. James's voice filled the room. "We have to finalize this, Kent. Father needs Sam to take the fall completely. She never suspected I've been diverting funds for years." The separate investigation into her connection with Pinnacle gave perfect cover. "You have the documents linking her?" asked another voice. "Better. I have recordings of father discussing the situation, completely manufactured, of course. The old man's too sedated to know what's happening around him." Reed stopped the playback. "Your brother's associate is Kent Marshall, former forensic accountant turned private fixer. He's been helping James falsify financial records for years." "This proves James framed me," I said, hope resurging. "But how did you get this?" "Let's just say Blackwell Security isn't the only firm with advanced surveillance capabilities." Reed's expression remained professional, but I detected a hint of satisfaction. "There's more. James has been systematically embezzling from Mitchell Enterprises for years, far beyond what your sister took. He's been using the funds to leverage a secret takeover of Mitchell Enterprises. Of Pinnacle. Read corrected. The acquisition attempt wasn't your father's strategy, it was James working behind the scenes. Richard Mitchell's heart attack provided perfect cover for accelerating the plan. The pieces aligned with sickening clarity. James hadn't been following our father's orders, he'd been manipulating all of us, including our father, positioning himself to control both companies while eliminating anyone who might expose him. We need to get this to the authorities, I said. And to Robert Keller. Reed nodded. Already arranged, but there's significant risk for you and your sister in coming forward. James has powerful connections. What choice do we have? If we don't act, I'll be imprisoned for his crimes and Allison will never be truly free. We decided to confront the situation directly. With Reed's evidence secured in multiple locations, Allison and I did the last thing anyone expected. We went to the hospital to see our father. The private room was guarded by security, who initially blocked our entry until Reed intervened, using credentials that suggested his background was more extensive than mere corporate security. Our father lay connected to monitoring equipment, looking smaller and older than I remembered. James sat beside him, rising in alarm as we entered. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. "Visiting our father," I replied calmly, "and bringing him some interesting information about his supposedly loyal son." James' expression darkened. "Security. They're taking a break," Reed informed him pleasantly. "Just us family now." What followed was a confrontation that would permanently alter the Mitchell family dynamics. With irrefutable evidence, we exposed James's years of financial manipulation, his plot against both me and our father, his planned corporate takeover. To our shock, our mother entered during the confrontation. Diana Mitchell, sober and clear-eyed for the first time in years, carried a manila envelope. "I found these in James's home office," she said quietly, handing me the envelope. "Affidavits he prepared for me to sign blaming you for causing your father's heart attacks through your criminal activities." James lunged for the documents, but Reed restrained him effortlessly. "You too, Mother," James hissed. "Everyone betraying the family legacy." "No," she replied with unexpected steadiness. "For once I'm protecting it." The monitors tracking our father's vitals began beeping rapidly as his eyes fluttered open, taking in the scene with confusion that quickly transformed to rage as he processed what was happening. Despite the family drama unfolding, I found myself helping the medical staff who rushed in, stabilizing my father, even as James continued threatening everyone in the room. It was a surreal moment, rendering aid to the man who had tried to destroy me professionally while his favored son revealed his true character. Hours later, I returned to Pinnacle with comprehensive evidence clearing my name. Keller called an emergency board meeting where I presented the complete picture: James's embezzlement, his manipulation of our father's health situation, his attempt to frame me and Allison. "This evidence will be provided to the appropriate authorities," I concluded. But I wanted Pinnacle's leadership to understand the truth first. The boardroom sat silent for several moments before the chairwoman spoke. "Miss Mitchell, on behalf of the board, I extend our sincere apologies for doubting your integrity." Keller went further. "We're not just reinstating you, Samantha. We're countersuing Mitchell Enterprises for defamation and corporate espionage. Their tactics have caused significant damage to Pinnacle and to you personally." As media coverage shifted from daughter's betray father to executive son's elaborate fraud, I found myself in an unexpected position of power. Mitchell Enterprises' stock plummeted as James faced criminal investigation. My father remained hospitalized, his legendary control of his empire suddenly uncertain. For the first time since the Disownment dinner, I felt not just professionally vindicated but personally empowered. The nearly fatal blow my brother had attempted had instead broken the chains binding me to toxic family expectations. The following weeks unfolded with dizzying intensity. Mitchell Enterprises faced federal investigations into financial improprieties. James was placed on administrative leave pending criminal charges. My father remained hospitalized, his condition stabilized but recovery uncertain. Pinnacle Industries publicly cleared my name with Robert Keller making a pointed statement about corporate ethics and the lengths some will go to undermine legitimate competition. My return to the executive floor was met with support from colleagues who had witnessed the ordeal. "Welcome back," my assistant Melanie said, handing me a stack of messages. "The Green Tech partners have been calling hourly since the news broke." I settled back into my office, determined to rebuild what the scandal had damaged. The Green Tech initiative had stalled during my absence, but clients remained committed once the truth about Mitchell Enterprises' tactics became public. A week after my reinstatement, I received an unexpected message my father was asking to see me. "You don't have to go," Allison cautioned when I called her. "After everything he's done, you owe him nothing." "I know," I replied, "but I need to face him one last time on my terms." The hospital corridor seemed longer than I remembered. My father had been moved to a rehabilitation floor, suggesting his recovery was progressing. I found him sitting in a chair beside the window, gazing out at the Manhattan skyline, the empire he had built visible from his confined space. "Samantha," he acknowledged without turning. "I wondered if you'd come." "You asked to see me," I replied, remaining near the doorway. He gestured to another chair. "Sit, please." I approached cautiously, studying the man who had defined my existence for 25 years. Richard Mitchell looked diminished, physically weakened, his legendary, intimidating presence undermined by hospital pajamas and medical monitoring equipment. "The doctors say I'm lucky to be alive," he began. 2 cardiac events in quick succession. "Apparently the Mitchell heart isn't as indomitable as the Mitchell will." "I'm glad you're recovering," I said neutrally. His gaze finally met mine, sharp despite his condition. "Are you, after everything? Your health and your actions are separate issues." He almost smiled, always so precise with language. "Like your mother." The mention of my mother triggered another question. "How is she?" "Gone," he replied flatly. "She's filed for divorce. 30 years of marriage ended with paperwork delivered to my hospital bed. Poetic justice, perhaps, given how I treated you." The revelation surprised me, though perhaps it shouldn't have. "Where is she now?" "A wellness retreat in Arizona." "Then who knows? She has access to funds I never knew she'd been accumulating." A hint of reluctant respect colored his tone. "Apparently I underestimated both Mitchell women." "You underestimated everyone who wasn't useful to your ambitions," I observed. "Including James," he acknowledged. "My perfect successor, systematically looting the company while plotting to sell it from under me." Bitterness edged his voice. "At least your betrayal was honest, Samantha. You left and competed openly." "I never betrayed you, Father. I simply refused to be controlled by you." He studied me with new consideration. "No, I suppose you didn't. That distinction matters little now." A nurse interrupted briefly to check his vitals, providing a moment to collect my thoughts. When we were alone again, my father continued with unexpected directness. "I've made changes to my will and business arrangements. Mitchell Enterprises will undergo restructuring during my recovery." "That seems wise given the circumstances." "The board has temporarily removed me as CEO," he revealed. "A humiliation I never anticipated." I felt no satisfaction at his downfall, only a complex mixture of emotions that defied simple categorization. "What will you do?" "Fight, of course." A flash of the old Richard Mitchell emerged. "But differently. I've had time to consider where my judgment failed." "With James, you mean?" "With all of you," he corrected, "but especially you, Samantha." I tensed, prepared for another attack or manipulation. "You were always the most like me," he continued. "Not in temperament, you have your mother's compassion, thankfully, but in vision. You see possibilities where others see obstacles. James saw only what he could take. You see what you can build." The assessment surprised me. "You never indicated you saw any value in my approach." Because I feared it, he admitted the confession, clearly costing him. Your way challenges everything I built my success upon. If you could succeed without ruthlessness, without the sacrifices I made, what would that say about my life's choices? The insight into my father's psychology was unexpected, a rare glimpse behind the impenetrable facade he maintained. So you tried to ensure I failed? Yes. No justification, no excuse. Just acknowledgement. And when I succeeded anyway, I convinced myself you must be employing the same tactics, I would just concealing them better. He gazed out the window again. It was easier than accepting I might have been wrong all these years. A nurse appeared in the doorway, signaling that our time was ending. I stood to leave, but my father caught my wrist, his grip weaker than I remembered but insistent. I won't ask for forgiveness, Samantha. That would insult us both, but I am. He hesitated, the word clearly foreign to him. Sorry. For the disownment. For allowing James to target you. For failing to recognize your strength was different from, but not lesser than my own. The apology limited, though it was represented more self-reflection than I'd ever witnessed from Richard Mitchell. I gently removed my wrist from his grasp. Thank you for saying that. I hope your recovery continues well. As I reached the door, he called after me. Will you come again? I turned back. I don't know. I need time. His nod acknowledged the boundary, another first. Outside the hospital, I called Allison. It's done. How was it? Surprisingly human, I replied. He's changed at least somewhat. People often do when they lose everything, she observed. Not everything, I corrected. He still has his intellect, his determination. And 2 daughters who survived his worst, Allison suggested. Yes, I agreed. Though what happens with that relationship remains to be seen. The following day brought another pivotal moment in my professional journey. Robert Keller called me to his office, where I found several board members gathered. Samantha Keller began the events of recent weeks, have clarified something I've been considering for some time. I'll be announcing my retirement at the next shareholders meeting. That's unexpected, I replied, genuinely surprised. You've been the heart of Pinnacle for decades. And the company needs new blood to move forward, he countered. Particularly now with Mitchell Enterprises vulnerable and the industry in flux. The chairwoman stepped forward. We've been discussing succession planning extensively. Your handling of the Green Tech initiative, coupled with your remarkable resilience during the Mitchell attacks, has impressed this board significantly. Keller smiled. I'm recommending you for the executive leadership team, Samantha. With appropriate mentorship, you could be positioned for the CEO role within a few years. The offer stunned me. I'm honored, but I've only been with Pinnacle for less than a year. Sometimes leadership reveals itself in compressed timeframes, the chairwoman noted. Crisis has a way of accelerating such revelations. Consider it carefully, Keller advised. This path would mean intense scrutiny and responsibility, but I believe you've demonstrated precisely the vision and integrity Pinnacle needs for its next chapter. That evening, alone in my restored office, I found myself reflecting on the extraordinary journey from birthday disownment to executive potential. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus Reed, who had become a trusted friend through the ordeal dinner to celebrate the good news. As I prepared to leave, a final call came through my father again, his voice stronger than during our hospital meeting. I hear Pinnacle is grooming you for leadership, he said without preamble. News travels fast, I observed, wondering about his sources even now. In our circles, always. A pause then. You deserve it, Samantha. You've earned it without shortcuts or compromises. Coming from Richard Mitchell, this represented the highest possible praise. Thank you, I replied, sensing the conversation represented another step in our reconfigured relationship. When you're running Pinnacle someday, he continued, perhaps we might discuss potential collaboration rather than competition. There could be advantages for both companies. I smiled at the familiar strategic thinking. Perhaps. When I'm running Pinnacle? When he repeated confidence in his tone, not controlling now but recognizing potential he'd previously denied. Goodbye, Samantha. Goodbye, Father. As I ended the call, I felt a sense of closure combined with new beginning. The disownment papers that had seemed so devastating on my birthday had ultimately freed me to discover my own strength independent of the Mitchell name and legacy. Sometimes losing everything is how you find what you're truly worth. 6 months after the confrontation that exposed James's schemes, my life had transformed in ways I couldn't have imagined on that fateful birthday night. Pinnacle Industries had not only recovered from the Mitchell attacks but emerged stronger, with our green tech initiative becoming the industry standard. Mitchell Enterprises underwent extensive restructuring. After lengthy negotiations with federal investigators, the company avoided criminal charges by agreeing to substantial fines, leadership changes, and transparent oversight. James wasn't so fortunate. He faced multiple charges for securities fraud, embezzlement, and corporate espionage. My brother's fall from grace was spectacular and complete. The scion who once ridiculed my career choices now worked an entry-level position at a small firm, willing to overlook his notorious name, the only job he could secure after being blacklisted by major corporations. My mother, Diana, surprised everyone by thriving post-divorce. After decades of submissive compliance, she rediscovered her artistic ambitions. Her first gallery showing in Manhattan featured abstract paintings expressing years of suppressed emotion. Several pieces sold for impressive sums. She seemed 10 years younger, her voice stronger, her posture more confident. I should have left decades ago, she told me over lunch at her favorite cafe, no longer drinking vodka sodas but sparkling water with lemon. But I wouldn't have my daughters, so I can't entirely regret the past. Allison established herself in a comfortable suburban home, far from the Mitchell estate's oppressive grandeur. She started a small consulting business, helping women establish financial independence from controlling partners' work, that gave purpose to her painful experiences. Her children flourished in the healthier environment, gradually shedding the rigid behaviors enforced in their previous life. My relationship with my father evolved into something I never expected: mutual respect. Richard Mitchell stepped down as CEO of Mitchell Enterprises, but remained on the board, focusing his legendary acumen on specific strategic initiatives during his ongoing recovery. Our interactions became cautiously cordial, occasional business consultations that acknowledged our complicated history without being defined by it. "You've created something remarkable at Pinnacle," he observed during one of our infrequent meetings. "Different from what I would have built, but undeniably effective." "Thank you," I replied, accepting the compliment for what it was: recognition from a formidable business mind who no longer sought to control my path. My professional trajectory at Pinnacle accelerated beyond my expectations. Robert Keller became a valued mentor, sharing wisdom accumulated through decades of industry leadership while encouraging me to trust my own instincts. "The board is impressed with your division's performance," he mentioned during our weekly strategy session. "Particularly the way you've integrated the former Mitchell clients without disrupting our corporate culture." They needed something different from what they experienced at Mitchell Enterprises, I explained. Transparency, collaboration approaches that were discouraged under my father's leadership. Keller nodded thoughtfully. "You've taken painful personal experience and transformed it into business wisdom." "That's remarkably rare, Samantha." On a personal level, my friendship with Marcus Reed deepened into something neither of us had anticipated. The security chief's unwavering support during the crisis revealed a person of exceptional integrity behind the professional exterior. Our occasional dinners evolved into regular companionship conversations that ranged from security protocols to shared interests in obscure documentaries and hiking trails outside the city. "You know," Marcus commented one evening as we walked along the Hudson River, "most people would have been broken by what your family put you through." "I almost was," I admitted. "There were moments when giving up seemed like the only option. But you didn't." No, I agreed, watching the sunset reflect off the water. Something in me refused to let them define my worth. On the anniversary of the Disownment dinner, I found myself reflecting on the extraordinary year while preparing for a significant Pinnacle board meeting. The contrast between then and now seemed almost surreal, from devastated daughter to respected executive, from family scapegoat to independent woman building a life on her own terms. My phone buzzed with messages of support, Allison wishing me luck, my mother sending unexpected flowers, even a brief text from my father acknowledging the anniversary with uncharacteristic self-awareness. Marcus had left a coffee on my desk with a simple note, "You've got this." The boardroom looked different from my perspective at the executive table, no longer an intimidating space where I defended my actions, but a forum where my voice carried weight. Board members greeted me with genuine respect as Keller called the meeting to order. Before we addressed today's agenda, he began, "I'd like to make an announcement. As you know, I've been transitioning toward retirement over the past 6 months, gradually shifting responsibilities to ensure a smooth succession." The room grew quiet attention, focused on the man who had built Pinnacle from a regional provider into an industry leader. After extensive discussion with this board and careful consideration of Pinnacle's future needs, I've made my recommendation for executive leadership succession. Keller's gaze met mine briefly. The board has voted unanimously. Samantha Mitchell is our new Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. The announcement, though not entirely unexpected given previous discussions, still stunned me. Board members offered congratulations while Keller gestured me to the podium. Standing before the leadership of Pinnacle Industries, I experienced a powerful moment of clarity. The path that brought me here, painful, challenging, sometimes seemingly impossible, had forged something essential in me. The Disownment papers that once symbolized rejection now represented liberation from expectations that would have constrained my authentic potential. "Thank you for this extraordinary trust," I began. 1 year ago today, I experienced what felt like the end of my professional and personal identity. My own father legally severed our relationship, believing it would destroy my future. The room remained respectfully silent, aware of the widely publicized story. Instead, that moment began a journey that brought me here, not because of family connections or inherited privilege, but through demonstrating values that align with Pinnacle's vision, innovation, integrity, and resilience. I outlined my vision for Pinnacle's future expansion of the Green Tech Initiative, investment in emerging markets, commitment to ethical business practices that would distinguish us further from competitors like Mitchell Enterprises. In closing, I concluded I accept this responsibility with humility and determination. Pinnacle's next chapter will build on Robert Keller's remarkable legacy, while embracing new possibilities for growth and innovation. Sometimes life's greatest setbacks reveal our greatest strengths, a lesson I carry into this leadership role with profound gratitude. The standing ovation that followed represented more than professional acknowledgement. It symbolized complete transformation, from rejection to acceptance, from disowned daughter to respected leader, from someone defined by family legacy to a woman creating her own. Later that evening, celebrating with Allison, my mother, Marcus, and close colleagues, I received one final message from my father. "Congratulations, CEO Mitchell. Your success is entirely your own, earned through capabilities I was too blind to recognize. Perhaps one day when you're ready, we might discuss how two strong companies could accomplish more together than in opposition. With respect, R.M." I showed the message to Marcus, who raised an eyebrow. "Will you consider it?" "Eventually," I replied. "On my terms, not his. That's the difference now." As conversations flowed around me, I took a moment to appreciate the journey, how the painful rejection of those Disownment papers had ultimately freed me to discover my authentic strength and purpose. The CEO role represented not just professional achievement but personal vindication, proof that sometimes losing what you thought you needed is how you discover what you're truly capable of becoming. What's the most difficult rejection or setback that ultimately changed your life for the better? I'd love to hear your stories of resilience and transformation in the comments. If this journey from disownment to empowerment resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of resilient souls supporting each other through life's unexpected challenges. Remember, sometimes what feels like the end is actually the beginning of something far more powerful than you could have imagined. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it gives you strength for whatever challenges you're currently facing.